There we go. Well, I don't know about where everybody else is, or I should say where y'all are, but boy, the weather is sure nice here right now. It's like 75 degrees and sunny.
No, I had to put my big boy pants on today.
Yeah, get your socks on, will you, Bob?
I'm working on it. We were gonna go for a walk a few minutes ago. I'm like, oh crap, I got my meeting. I can't miss it. So it's interesting, since I've set up the shop here like a week ago, I probably had more people physically at the shop in a week than I had in a year back in Florida. I've had like 6 people through the shop in the last week.
Looking for work?
No, well, these are customers. There was 4 potential customers, and then 2 people to pick up boats. The last of which was just today at 10. The gentleman with that little 212.
Well,
Yeah,
good. Does he know how to maintain it?
Yeah, he's an RC guy. He does tanks and planes and all of that stuff. And
That doesn't mean squat.
I know it doesn't mean squat, but what I actually loved about him, he was telling me kind of about how he got into this. He was a lurker for a really long time. Watched like every single video of mine twice, and everything that everybody else has put out on YouTube twice. Bought my book, read it cover to cover, and then reached out to me, not to say I want this, but what should I get? So I think he's got the right mentality. I think he's gonna do well.
Well, you gonna out him or not?
Let me. His name is Terry Walker. He's he works with the fire department in Austin, Texas. So he drove out all the way from Austin this morning.
So he's a real guy.
He's a real guy, yeah. And former Army. He's a former military.
I like him already.
There you go. Yeah, if you guys haven't had a chance to see it, that little 212, and to today's point, I need to point out that both the cylinder and the boat itself is a Merriman product. The contributions of which were not only him, but I understand Steve Neal and was it Brian Stark had his fingers in there as well.
Yes.
That little 96 212. It's just one of those boats. You can just pick it up with one hand and you throw it in the water, and man, oh man, it's just so much fun to drive, because even in my pool, you could do turn around in a quarter of the width of it.
Keep it away from the drain.
Yeah, yeah. Don't float too near the skimmer. That's right. Look at Matt, all bundled up.
I've not been here all day. It's freezing.
Pussy.
I am a pussy and I'm a mid, probably. Fuck off, it's cold. Was it? We're getting a northern blast tonight, supposedly. It was already bloody here.
So what's the definition of cold?
Anything below, was it below 3?
Yeah, I suppose that would be cool. That would be cool-ish.
Yeah, we've got a frost out there, so yeah, it's chilly.
A hop, skip, and a jump from the North Sea.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm actually right on the East Coast, so we're always the first to cop any easterly or northerly winds. It can be quite cold here.
Yeah.
But life of living on a boat.
You had it coming.
Absolutely.
And since we're talking about Matt, his Stingray is selling really good. I think I sold like 3 of them since I launched it a few weeks ago, which for any RC sub is pretty decent turnover. So
Yeah,
now you gotta get busy.
I'm already busy. I mean, it's got to the point where, so basically, I ripped this place out and I rebuilt, put new worktops. So I've got more space to work in because I was getting to the point where I was just running out of room. I've got 12 Stingrays to get out the door.
So
and that includes yours.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. There'll be pent up demand from a business perspective. It's always a situation when that happens. The question you ask yourself: am I selling it too cheap?
Yep, I've been asking myself that to the point I've actually made a new mold.
Yeah. So you can do 2 at a time now.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, it got to the point where it got ridiculous. How long has Stingray been out there? 4 weeks?
Yeah.
12 in 4 weeks.
It's incredible.
That's good. We need
I'm not
more
complaining.
boats like that.
Yeah, I know it ain't going to last like this, but it's definitely nice before Christmas. But yeah, so I've just completely, as I say, I haven't finished in here yet. I've just ripped this all out. This is the WTC room anyway. So now
you tell the truth. You ripped those work surfaces off because of all that god awful big gobs of resin that were dripping and curing all over the place. You sent us video.
Hang on. Right. That's the other room. This is the clean room.
Okay.
No such thing.
Fair one. No, is it the other room? It's got about that thick of fiberglass on the desk, you know? It's just slowly building. Oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah. How is everyone? All right?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna remind everyone. This will probably be my only point of business today. My surgery was approved for Monday, so I'll be out basically for the week. They're saying it's going to be longer than that, but my doctor kind of wink nudged me that I'll probably be okay after a week. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that that's the situation. I'll still be answering emails and that kind of thing. Maybe not Monday, Tuesday. I'll be pretty whacked up on drugs likely. I might have some very interesting replies to your emails, but hopefully thereafter, and then it'll be full steam ahead once I'm back to the shop. So
refresh us on your surgery, Bob.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like a bi-monthly thing now. I'm getting sick and tired of it.
Well, tell us what's going on
With the surgery,
Yes.
I got 2 impinged nerves down in my lower back, C5-6 and C6-7. So it's I've got what they call severe impingement of my nerves at those locations. They're rated light, moderate, and severe. So it hurts a lot. And it radiates all down my arm, and it actually makes my arm like weak. I don't have the same strength on this side. So they're going to jam open the vertebrae, yank out the discs, bolt them all together. Apparently I could grow up to 3/4 of an inch. That's pretty exciting. So I'll be the height that I should be. And then it'll go away. If it's anything like the fusion that I had on my lower back, it was like instantaneous relief, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. So
my wife had that surgery done, and she's just so ecstatic ever since it was done. She's like, I could feel my feet again.
Yeah. It's when it hits, it's like having a knife wedged like in between my shoulder blades, and you can't get rid of it. You can't move, and yeah, not cool. I don't know. Again, I don't know what happened. I turned 40 and like everything started breaking and falling apart, and
Just wait, Bob.
No, I'm done. I've hit my key.
No, don't say you're done.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the update from the shop. And I think the only order of business that we want to make sure that we do, because we promised it last time, we got shop tours lined up. And I believe it was Frank, and who was the other person that said they were gonna give us a tour?
Ed was.
Ed. Oh yeah, where is Ed?
Probably cleaning his shop.
Probably. By the way, I had a chance to go up to Ed's place. He's got a beautiful shop set up with a lot of very spanky, shiny, brand new tools in there. It's pretty sweet. It's unfortunate he's not going to be here today that he couldn't show it, but I'm sure we'll line it up. We'll line it up afterwards. Yeah, it's a standalone building in his backyard. Actually, almost exactly like the one at your place, Jason.
Nice.
Yep. So yeah, there you go. Do you guys want to kick off with Frank's tour? Are you ready, Frank? You want to show us your digs?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Now, just to make clear, I have two shops. The one in the basement is my winter shop, and the one I showed you the last time with the tank, that's out in a separate building. So I'm not going to show you that today because it's freaking cold out. So I'll show you that another time.
Okay.
Let me see. Reverse that. Well, here's all the parts. I have listed cabinets with all the little screws and all kinds of tiny little screws and stuff. And all these contain tools and everything. So I'm a bit of a tool freak. And I'm sure you recognize that Type 7 up there.
Mm-hmm. And the Nautilus.
Then, this is the some more parts and a lot of airplane stuff. That's the music center. And then here we have larger parts and stuff that when I built the Seaview, things have changed along the way. So some designs didn't work well, so they came out and they go into storage. And then this is the little machine shop here. So this is the lathe Ed just got. And it's really nice. I'll never say anything bad about Harbor Freight again, because that is one of the nicest little lathes I've ever had. So that's a little milling machine I have and a little drill press. Now, the other side of the basement has a big table saw and radial arm saw. That's where all the rough work is done. And in the garage is also a large lathe, large milling machine, and another table saw, and all kinds of other larger tools. But this is the Seaview up on the workbench. She's in winter storage right now. So right now I'm just getting her ready to do all the stuff that I discovered wrong while I was testing it in the tank. So I needed more flotation in the nose. So I think what I'm going to do is put the flying sub bay back in there and make it airtight. So it's actually taking the place of some foam and getting as much of that in there as I can. So it's working out well. And then when it's on display, I'll put a mirror underneath and people can look at the flying sub.
Very cool.
Here's the drafting table and some of my other projects that have been put on hold since I got interested in submarines. And this winter, I hope to integrate this radio into it, the Graupner. It's challenging. Everything is in German, so I have to figure it out. I'm getting better at it. So it's a beautiful radio, and it fits the Seaview perfectly for 16 channels. So it'll work out really good. This is the main workbench. And that's all my little tools, my model making tools. Now, I was a professional model maker. I know I've said it a few times. So a lot of the tools have been from my, professional years before we got laid off at Grumman. And then this is my tool collection for everything else that is large and has to be used on the submarine, but was all automotive. This is the soldering center and charging center, and I had the little cutoff wheel for the brass. These cabinets are all over here are all full of plastic, and then there's brass, and then there's other scale model stuff. But this spot here is for kind of like weighing out epoxies and stuff. When I do casting inside, I have to be careful because I have an infant upstairs, a granddaughter, so I have to be careful what kind of smells I make. And this is a surface plate with the height gauges and another cabinet. And that's the other end of the sea view, the top end. And as soon as I finish that, Bob, I'm going right into this one. So the Nautilus is the next one on the table. So, and basically that's it. You know, the other shop outside is where I tested it in the tank and everything. And other than that, keeps me busy, keeps me honest, keeps me young.
Yeah,
So,
that's beautiful. I love the anal retentive attention that you put on organizing all your tools. It's like shop porn.
well, it comes from doing it at work. I couldn't have this in Grumman because half the stuff would be missing, but you know, at home I can, you know, and there's other stuff. I mean, all the little crap that's all built up, and you know, the Dremel. I don't use a Dremel much. I have a Fordham. It's like a Fordham. You know, you step on it and you got the hand piece.
Oh yeah,
Really
yeah.
great tool to have. So, and that's it.
Cool. You know, the one thing I'll point out to everyone, it's one thing that I did in my shop, you know, early on, and it takes up room, unfortunately, but having like a standalone desk in the middle of the shop area where you can move around, you know, all 360 degrees around your boat, is awesome. I would never go back, you know, to
that's my winter project. If you'll notice the workbenches, they're only 2 foot deep, and there's 2 foot here, 2 foot, and then 2 foot. So this winter I'm cutting an aisle in the middle, because you're right, it's a pain in the neck when you have to move this big sub around and work on the other side. And the one in the garage I made specifically 2 foot wide because I always encounter that problem, and it's great. You can walk all the way around and do what you have to do. So in the middle of this, that's one of my winter projects. I'm going to be cutting a 2 foot slot right through the workbench, and it's basically all storage under there anyway of my ship models and stuff. But you're right, that's the way to go. It's the only way to go.
It's one of those things, like when you think about it statistically, every time you pick up your boat, there's a certain % chance that you're going to break something. Or scratch something or knock something off. So the less you have to do that, the better.
And well, you know, with this thing, what I have to do is, if you see this hook up there, because I do it all by myself, I put this ratchet strap, and I come underneath it, jack it up about 2 inches, and then go to the front of the boat and spin it over, and then let it back down on the cradle again, because I can't do it alone. And you're right, you wind up damaging everything, you know, every time you go to move it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right.
And that doesn't, and it's not even necessarily just for big boats. So even small boats, you know, when you start talking about masts and periscopes and dive planes and all of that kind of stuff, it's and especially if you're being lazy and you got, you know, a jar of paint or paintbrush or a sharp knife, and you knock it and it falls on the floor. And
well, the airplane, when I used to do airplanes, they used to call that hanger rash. Every time you ding up a wing or you ding up a tail or break something, so it never failed. I even made a when this was in the garage about 3 days ago, I had to carry it in the basement by myself. So I took a 10-foot ladder, cut it to a 10-foot extension ladder, cut 3 feet off of it, and made it a stretcher for this. Put foam on it, put wheels at one end, and I wheeled it from the garage down the cellar steps and in here, and it worked out great.
Awesome. That's a beautiful shop. I love it.
Thank you.
Very envious, bud.
Same here.
Years of collecting.
Very envious.
Yeah, here on that one.
And it doesn't go below 55 degrees down here.
All right, now you're just taking the mic.
Well, in the garage where the tank is, you ever see that scene where Seaview comes up out of the ice? Give me another
cool.
month, that's what it'll be doing.
Yeah, but you gotta get that on video.
Very well. Since we're on the topic of shop tours and Ed's not here, does anybody want to volunteer? Ed, maybe we'll do it next time. But I like the idea of having two. We'll have like a primary and a secondary. Any volunteers? And don't feel like embarrassed if you're working on your kitchen table. Like this is all super valid because there's other people in your situation. And the more we can share tips and tricks to work in challenging areas, the better for everyone.
What?
You want to see an absolute disaster?
And mine isn't this clean all the time.
Hey, and
Yeah.
it can't be any worse than mine.
That sounds like a challenge. I don't know. You guys want to see? Well,
Let's
I do
see
a
it,
lot.
Nick. Bring it
Come
on.
on, Nick, let's see it.
All right. It's not as organized as my old machine shop used to be. But let's see. Let me turn this camera around here.
Never start a lecture with an apology.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to be lecturing. All right, that's the shop. It's about 5,000 square feet.
Nice.
And where's the pond in relation?
Back towards the house.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll walk you guys back over there. But yeah, I used to live here about 24 years ago. And we actually just moved back here about 6, but ever since, I haven't had a chance to really put the shop together the way I like to have it.
Feels like I'm watching Blair Witch.
Washingtonian, aren't you?
Korean War Jeep. So the front of the shop's all kind of automotive and cars. This is the disaster I'm kind of talking about. I got a number of projects going on in here, both mine and ones I'm doing for others. But back here, this is where I do a lot of kind of the small model work and small lathe work. It's like I said, it's a bit of a disaster at the moment. There's a plug mold I started making. Bunch of little steam engines I used to build. But I'm hoping to get this area a little bit more dialed in. The up in these cabinets, literally just, I mean, tons and tons of machined parts. Back when I used to make the steam engines professionally. But all these cabinets along this wall are all full of those bins, just packed full of parts. Turn on some lights in here.
Hey, well, while you're on that topic, because I don't think everybody knows, like, give to the 2 second spiel about that Monahan steam models whole thing.
Basically, I think it was back 2008 or so. Had a large fabrication welding business, and it was doing pretty well, but as my spidey senses were like, this is kind of based on the local economy, and I really like, I wanted to produce something that I could, produce domestically but sell around the world. And I'd gotten into steam when I was a kid, and and I got a mechanical engineering background, so I basically just sat down, designed engines, boilers, the whole 9 yards. Had all the most high-tech CNC and manual equipment set up in a shop, and basically manufactured about 95% of the stuff in-house. And these were marine steam engines, like museum quality ones for radio controlled boats or just collectors. And I sold them all around the world. And it was pretty fun job. It's like you can design something, write the code to run the machines, go down, my shop was down the street from my house at the time, so I could just literally walk down there, load material on the machines, load the program, and have the part I designed like maybe an hour ago, and be able to test it and prototype it and or see how it worked. But back to the quick shop tour here. So yeah, we just kind of saw that room in there. It's a work in progress. There's another kind of clean room. Well, it's not so clean right now. I used to have a CNC mill over here, but I just got rid of it. There's a bathroom. Back over in here, there's a storage room we built that I'm kind of cleaning. That's why it looks like a disaster. And then there's an upstairs as well. Kind of gives you a bird's eye view of the shop.
That's awesome.
68 Mustang?
Yeah, it's a six, just like Steve McQueen's.
Ah,
That thing's it's only got 45,000 original miles on it.
390.
It was originally a 289 car, but here's a room upstairs. Various airplanes and helicopters, steamboats, and this is kind of where all the projects that are started or in progress kind of live when I'm not working on them.
I love how you've got piles. It's organized chaos. It's like this is my boat pile, my steam pile.
Yeah, it's like I said. I wish I could have showed you guys the old machine shop. I mean, everything had a place, super organized. It was like a clean room, and I'm hoping to get this place under control. It's just moving back here. It's just been, I spend half the year just trying to maintain the property and whatever else time I have working on projects or doing work for customers.
So that whole building is heated?
The two rooms in the back are the two rooms in the back and the one upstairs. Each one of those are climate controlled, but the main shop area out here, it's like you were saying with your shop, it's as cold as it is outside. It's probably colder in here, or in the summertime, it's probably hotter in here than it is outside. But during the winter, I try and do most of my work inside the house. But I'll walk you guys over. I'm sure some of you guys have seen the pond before. walking back towards the house.
Beautiful property.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, a lot of work to keep it up, though.
I had a 3-acre acreage for a while, and I was keeping that up by myself. Oh my God.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
had a pond, it had a koi pond with a waterfall, and God, just maintaining the pond was a full-time job.
It's a full-time job, but here's kind of the testing facility. It's about 12 feet deep. It's roughly 571,000 gallons. Actually, I redid this pond about 5 years ago. It's completely rocked in, but we brought in about 390 tons of stone.
It's
Usually
looks like a prime fun run location once we clear those leaves out of there.
Oh yeah. No, for sure. Usually the water's crystal clear, but we were going to drain it this year, clean it out again, and then with all the typical California droughts and firestorms and all that, we said maybe we shouldn't. Maybe keeping that water close by is probably a good idea.
No.
But anyway, yeah, that's what I'm working on. The shop is a project itself.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Nice.
That was really cool to see.
Super impressed.
Thanks.
Port of
Is that
California,
it? What's that?
Port of California in.
Kind of halfway between Lake Tahoe and Sacramento in Placer County.
My brother lives down there in Bodega. Nice area.
Oh, okay, nice.
Very cool. All right. We got 2 down. Nice. I love this. So we want to save some time for show and tell and stuff. I got 20 minutes before I need to go, but is anybody going to step up and volunteer for next meeting?
Before you bug out, I was at a meeting, and
That wasn't your back, was it, Bob?
That wasn't me.
there's a guy that shut down his hobby shop, and he's got his son is selling off his inventory, but he's giving away 3 72 megahertz transmitters with receivers and crystals and the whole bit. If anybody wants them, just shoot me an email at KimballD, KIMBELLD @msn.com, and I'll mail them out to you.
Nice.
They're free.
Are they 4-channel, 6-channel, 8-channel? Do you know what they are?
I think there was a couple of Futaba, but I didn't actually look them over too carefully. I could head back over there and get some pictures of them if you'd like.
Very cool. All right, everyone. If you need a radio, backup radio,
Make sure
it works, even though technically it's illegal.
one thing some people miss. Make sure that the receiver is compatible with the J connectors. We don't want G's or any of that old 5-wire stuff.
Bob, I saw your W2C, the new ones.
Yeah.
Are connected the plastic parts together, the pipes. With which material? Is this 3D printed or?
No, so the prototype was 3D printed, but I went ahead and I made molds, and they're all going to be cast resin.
With resin?
Yep. Well, if I got your question properly, the bulkheads, all the bulkheads, there's 4 of them, are resin. They're cast resin. The printed parts were perfect, and they were working really, really well. The problem is, from a production perspective, I can't print them fast enough. It takes 18 hours because I print them solid. It takes 18 hours to print a full set. and there's no way I could keep up unless I invested in like 3 more printers just to print cylinder parts.
Bob,
Yeah.
actually, I saw your cylinders on your website, and I'd just like to say that the price that you've got them listed at is absolutely fantastic. This
Okay.
It's going to help people get into the hobby and not scare people away, you know, compared to what we've seen in the past with prices. With what
Yeah,
people
well, I mean,
charge. Some
they're
people-
actually a little pricier than Dave's sub drivers were, but it just has to do with, you know, production methodology here and the fact that Dave was not charging what he was worth. But what I like about them is there's a lot of flexibility in them. It's really easy to make like a dynamic diver using these parts, and I'll probably come up with like a non-ballast version for anybody that's doing a dynamic diver. Or if you're going to do a modular one where you want to run, you know, like a separate ballast module, there'll be options for that as well.
That look really great.
Is there any way you can put a picture of the snorkel head out and dimensions on it? I'm still trying to figure out how to put it in something.
So I'm researching right now. I'm trying to find a good source for the right specification of that membrane material. And once I find that, I'll be able to make snorkels in any configuration you could imagine. So I might have, you know, a super long, skinny one that would fit up, you know, in a narrow sail. Or I could have a, you know, a vertically oriented one with membrane on the side, or, you know, any number of things. But for right now, because I haven't found a source selling the correct membrane, raw membrane material, I have to buy the pre-made vents, and they are what they are. They're that size. They're like 3/4 of an inch in diameter. So for now, this is what I have, but I'm working hard to try and find the material that allow me to make a variety of different snorkels for different applications. You look super disappointed in me. You're making me feel really bad.
Who, me?
I said you look super disappointed in me. You're making me feel bad.
No, I just hadn't seen one, and I just been sitting there trying to figure out how you can put one in the cell, or, you know, something that big, and or where you could put it to make it work. So
yeah, no, if you give me a little bit of time, it's like the next, it's what I'm working on right now is locating a source for that membrane. And once I can, you know, I'll come up with, like, say 3 different standard versions that'll be, you know, say super narrow, super tall, and super flat, you know, or whatever the 3 different variants would make the most sense.
Bob, the one you have, does it have fittings on both sides?
Just one side.
Oh, because I was going to say, why do you have to locate it in the sail? If it sucks from one end and you just run a hose to the sail the other end, it's going to work no matter what. Once it sees the water, it stops.
Hey, well, yes, interesting. So you could
inline.
Well, the only issue is as long as the membrane's wet, it's not going to allow air to pass through it. So if it sucks water and there's water in the line, it'll just stay wet.
Oh,
You know, it needs to be able to dry out for a few seconds.
Dry out. Yeah. Okay.
It might work. You know, you could mount it in the top part of the hull and then run a hose up to the, you know, an intake to the top of the sail.
Yeah.
But that would just mean it wouldn't start, you know, drying out that induction intake until the hull was completely out of the water. And the only thing I'd be worried about for that is I don't know that there's enough air, you know, in the cylinder body to evacuate a ballast tank to that point. You know what I mean? To get it all the way out of the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if that was the case, you wouldn't even need the snorkel.
Yeah. I forgot about the drying part.
But most boats will ride up out of the water with some kind of, you know, freeboard enough. If you put it in the top of the hull, as high as you could in the hull, wouldn't it dry out?
Well, it would, but again, if you think about this from a process perspective, you know, your boat is under the water, your hull is under the water. This is the cross side, looking at it from the front. Under the water, if your snorkel intake is here, or the valve, sorry, is here, it's under the water, it's locked. The inside of your cylinder only has so much air. So those air pumps are pulling it from the inside of your cylinder and they're blowing it into the ballast tank. It's going to reach a point where equilibrium is established. That vacuum is going to override the pump's ability to pump more air into the ballast tank. But it'll be positive buoyant. So, but it might only come up to here, right? Like just enough to get it positively buoyant, get a little bit of the hull maybe out of the water. The whole idea is that, you know, as soon as the sail breaches, that snorkel opens up and then allows the pressure to equalize and pull the boat up out of the water.
Steve's suggestion of putting the snorkel induction just underneath the superstructure, I've tried on several models. Yes, it'll work if you cruise along on the step at high speed with, you know, up planes on everything. Most on scale like, and you're busy trying not to hit people while you try to keep that snorkel above the water. You're much better served to have that induction up high in the sail.
Agreed.
So this goes back to the idea of having to create, and again, you know, when Dave was making the MSD cylinders, there was, I think he had 3 or maybe even 4 different variants and different
six.
So each one would have a different, each boat would require potentially a different configuration of snorkel, if it's, you know, horizontal or vertical or short or stubby or, you know.
It all had to do with the geometry of the sail. How much room did I have to put to float? There's a minimum amount of float you need to ensure a good seal on the rubber element. Well, the geometry drives how you're going to shape that float, which means you got a specific float for a specific model kit.
Yep. The thing, I love this membrane material, and again, credit where credit's due. Sam from the forums, the guy out of China, is the one that put me onto this. My testing is awesome. It takes like 5 seconds for the membrane to dry out to the point where it'll start allowing water to come through. But the more research I've done on the membrane, the more I'm impressed with it. It's absolutely amazing. So it's actually rated to IP67, and you can get it to IP68 waterproofedness. But depending on the porosity, it'll allow a certain volume of air through at a certain pressure. And it's rated in milliliters per minute. And so I have no problem finding stuff that'll allow like 300 milliliters per minute, but you can imagine some of these boats with the bigger tanks, it would take like 3 minutes or 4 minutes to completely, you know, evacuate the tank, which is not super awesome. And the thing is, even if it's dry, you know, it's still pulling it through that mesh. And so not ideal, but I found some that are up to 1,500 milliliters per minute, which is perfect. That's awesome. So I just got to find the source because they sell it in rolls. I just got to find people selling the right stuff.
Well, I'm clearing a spot in my sail for it.
Hey, I got good news. We were talking about, you know, the next generation and lamenting the fact that no young people were in. So I've been corresponding back and forth with an 18-year-old kid, and he's kept on me, and he's bought my book, and he's ready to start step by step. He said all his friends think he's crazy, but he's going to build himself a boat. So we got a kid just graduated high school. He got his first like part-time job, and he's like, the money from that's going to fund my submarine hobby.
Does he have any previous RC vehicle experience?
Nope. He's just decided he's going to make it happen. He's a kid. I didn't have any experience when I built my first boat. It's possible.
Well, you're nuts.
I've got a 16-year-old that's drooling for an I-400, Bob.
I know that, and actually I busted out the parts for that yesterday, or no, on Friday, when those people came by and dropped. Really, the only thing left is just assemble the prototype, and I need to clear up some clearance issues because I've got embedded latches. You drop the deck down and you slide it forward and it locks. But I've got some interference issues that I just need to address. It won't take long, and actually next week when I'm laid off, I'm gonna have nothing to do but sit in front of a computer, so I might just clean it up then.
Hey, Bob, where is the 18-year-old guy located?
Good question. I don't know that he actually told me where he was out of. His name's Alan Palmer. Yeah, he reached out like a year ago, and I kind of gave him the lowdown on what to expect, and maybe, you know, got his expectations matched to reality a little bit. But what I love about this is it's been a year and he hasn't lost the passion for it. And he spent the time researching and trying to figure out what he's going to do. So, yeah. He doesn't say, I should reach out and find out where he is. I'm going to do that right now.
Yeah, it would just be handy if he was near somebody who could help him out if he gets in a jam or something doesn't look right. It's a lot easier to do stuff like that face to face than electronically.
Well, I'm actually considering maybe gifting a DiveTribe membership to him so he can come in and just, even if he doesn't contribute, even if he listens to our discussions here, I think it would be valuable to him.
Sure, maybe come up with a student membership or something, or some scholarships. I was just even thinking about stuff we all have in our 20-year box. We might be able to donate to his cause or something if he's short of funds. But
that's a really cool idea.
Be happy to send up one of these transmitter receiver pairs that this guy is offering to you, Bob, if you want to forward it to him.
Yeah. And you know what I like about that too is if he takes help or donations from people, it builds a certain degree of accountability to produce, right? It's not like you just take that stuff in and you're like, ah, change my mind. All right, you don't need to listen to me type. You guys can talk about other stuff.
So I got something I'd like to ask you. I saw that you got a 72 sturgeon for 3D printing. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering how much you think that the skipjack fitting kit will work in that to make it work.
Well, I mean, the fitting kit really is just a series of parts like the appendages and that kind of thing. And I don't know, Dave,
no, you need the rut, moving the fairwater planes and having the little pieces that make the rudder, and
those should all be universal. You know, Dave should chime up on this. He would know how applicable the parts for the 72nd skipjack would work on a 77 sturgeon.
The big deal is the yokes, and the skipjack and sturgeon and thresher were probably close enough in diameter at the tail cone to accommodate a like set. So I guess your point is, if you had a 1/72 skipjack yoke set, would it work in the other models? The answer is yes, because I provided enough neck in each yoke that you can trim them back.
well, what about the fairwater planes, that little gear mechanism? You think that'd work also?
Yes, yes. All you have to do is change the length of the shaft on the intermediate gear.
Okay. So
But-
now all we got to do is figure out how to get a 3D printed printer to print it.
What?
Hey,
My work?
No. I'm just talking about getting a 72nd scale sturgeon.
Yeah.
All I have to do is be able to get a 3D printer. I don't have a printer.
you remember I talked to you about this. I just haven't listed it, but I've got that 70-second fiberglass sturgeon kit. It's just sitting on the shelf right now. I haven't had a chance.
I asked you and you said you get back to me and you never did.
Yeah, well, you should have kept on me.
Now, I'll talk to you about it later then.
Yeah, let me know. I just again came across it today. It's sitting up on the shelf.
Okay.
We'll make it happen. It's been started, but the work is solid.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll talk to you about it later then.
Yeah, for that 172nd sturgeon, I think we're talking about Steinsted's kit. I had to make my own yokes for that.
But yeah, if we need, there's lots of ways you can do it. You can use you can use just standard like linkage horns and run 2 to the forward and connect them. There's lots of ways you can do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. All right, I got like 4 more minutes, and then I got to go. But I'm going to leave this running, and you guys can feel free to continue. So last chance to pick my brain before I'm out of here.
Yeah, Bob, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Hull displacement in terms of ballast capacity is this correct? The amount of ballast that you require to sink your boat, is that correct? Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think I've been listening to Dave a few times on this. So the weight of your boat in surface trim, or the weight of the hull above the waterline, that must match or equal out to your ballast capacity?
Right. The purpose behind a ballast tank is to lift out of the water what needs to get lifted out of the water, for lack of a better term. That's a simplified version of it. So the more emerged superstructure you have, the larger the ballast tank you're going to require to pull it up out of the water. Like obviously, if your boat was neutrally ballasted, you would need no ballast tank in order to to move around. So yeah, it's completely dependent on the freeboard of your boat and how heavy that superstructure is.
Keep in mind that the weight assumes that the materials that it's constructed of has a specific gravity of 1, the same as water. If not, there'll be a conversion factor, either a fraction or something more than 1 multiplied times the weight, and then you have the weight of water required to get the neutral trim.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, hopefully that answered your question. That's a super common one. We talked about it at the at Subfest, and I have a chapter in my book kind of dedicated to it. So yeah.
So a good way of calculating would probably to, if you could sort of, I don't know how you could do it, but weigh the top half of your boat or whatever is above the waterline, and just basically go by that that'd be pretty close.
Yeah, exactly. Dave's kind of rule of thumb is do that, weigh it, and then you add a 10 to 15%, like what does he call it, fudge factor, or
that's the nice term, yeah.
Just to make sure that you got enough reserve buoyancy.
Better too much than too little.
More than a little less. If your tank
nothing wrong with overkill.
Yeah, if your tank is too big, really, it's just wasted energy and space. It's not terrible.
Yeah.
And you watch the boat, keep blowing until you're at the design waterline. Fine, you're done.
And by the way, as a tip for everyone, I've done this, and Steve Hodges certainly knows about this. If you end up with a module, for example, that has too big of a ballast tank and you don't want to chop it up, oh, thank you. Bartender's here. Look at that.
Oh man.
Oh, service.
She's a keeper.
Uber drinks.
Yeah. If your tank is too big, and so what'll end up happening, you'll trim it for perfect surface water line, and then you go to dive it, you completely vent the tank and it sinks like a rock. That means your tank is too big. But what you can actually do is fill your tank with chunks of styrofoam. And what that effectively does is it reduces the operational capacity of the ballast tank. So
Okay.
Steve Hodges found this out with his Nautilus. He has these really cool acrylic spheres, and
The spheres, yeah.
he found out that he had way too much ballast. He just poked these little like 1-inch cubes of styrofoam in there until it was basically full, if I remember correctly. And then you just add weight to offset the styrofoam, and now your operational ballast is exactly where it should be.
Yep. Now the cylinder I've just built, I've done it in such a way that if I want to put it into a bigger boat, I've probably gone an inch or two over probably the size of the ballast should be. So that if I wanted to take the cylinder out and put it into a bigger boat, like future proofing, that's the reason I've done it the way I've done it. So I thought if I don't have to fill the cylinder, the ballast tank up to submerge the boat, well then so be it. But if I can use the cylinder in another boat down the track, well, that'll work.
Yep. And so what I'd recommend is to not do what I recommend in my book. I always trim my boats for surface first and then submerged after. You would need to kind of do it backwards, because if you trim it for surface and the tank's too big, it'll sink like a rock, like I said earlier. But if you trim it for submerged first, which is trickier, by the way, then what will end up happening when that tank is fully evacuated of water, the only thing that will happen is it'll float too high. So it's not catastrophic. It'll just be sitting high in the water, and you can just elect not to bring it up to full surface water line on the surface. So, and that way you don't have to mess around with adjusting ballast for 2 different boats or whatever. Not ideal, but it would be a workaround.
Yep.
Wait, the skipjack class was built for boats, right?
Say that again?
Skipjack class submarine was built for pieces of the submarines, right?
The full-size boats?
Yes. What is they are the same sail, the same structure on the main hull somehow. What was the difference?
Skipjack was unique.
Unique.
The commonality comes between the Thresher and Sturgeon. They were basically the same hull with different arrangements internally. And of course, the Sturgeon had a much larger sail than the Thresher. Other than that, the boats were very similar. Same propulsion plant, same arrangement back in the engineering spaces, and really subtle modifications of tankage and compartmentation. But that's your commonality, is between Thresher and Sturgeon class. Other than that, things are different. Other than everything after Albacore was a constant diameter hull with tapered bow and stern. Skipjack was the Albacore hull. It was a teardrop.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to leave this meeting. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to turn it over. Dave, are you still okay manning the helm?
I don't know. Can these guys take it?
I'll leave it running. I'm not going to start any meetings and kick you guys out. So, but just bear in mind, in theory, it's still being recorded. So mind your P's and Q's. All right. See you guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Good luck with the net deal.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Talk to y'all later.